my hands still trembling from lowering Evelyn Harper's casket into the ground. 10 years. 10 years of caring for my mother-in-law, and this was the first quiet moment I had been alone all day. Or so I thought. When I opened the front door, I stopped. My husband, Mark Harper, was sitting in the living room, not slouched on the couch like he usually did. He was sitting upright, stiff, in Evelyn's favorite chair. The one he had never dared sit in while she was alive. My son Ethan was on the couch, staring at his hands like they were foreign objects. Next to him sat Mark's younger sister Rachel, her posture sharp, a folder resting neatly on her lap. And by the window, in a gray suit I had never seen before, sat a man I did not recognize. For a second, no one spoke. The only sound was the faint drip of rainwater from my shoes onto the hardwood floor Evelyn used to polish every Saturday morning, back when she could still stand. "Linda," Mark finally said, "we need to talk." He did not stand up. That was the moment something inside me shifted. I had been married to this man for 23 years, and I knew instantly that whatever this conversation was, it was not for my benefit. "Can I at least take off my coat?" I asked. "This will not take long," Rachel said calmly. Her tone was polite, detached, like she was discussing paperwork, not my life. I hung my coat on the rack Evelyn bought years ago at an estate sale. She had told me the story while I was changing her sheets one night, trying to distract her from the embarrassment she never fully got used to. "Sit down, Linda," Mark said. There was no warmth in his voice, no grief, no trace of the man who had cried quietly in our bedroom the night his mother stopped breathing. I looked around the room. There was no chair left for me. So I sat on the ottoman, low, out of the way, in my own home. Rachel opened the folder. "We found Mom's will," she said. And in that moment I knew. Not what it said, but what it was going to take from me. Before Rachel could say another word, my mind drifted backward. Not to the funeral. Not to the rain. But to 10 years earlier, when Evelyn Harper collapsed in the kitchen one quiet Tuesday morning. The first stroke. Mark had stood frozen in the doorway, phone in his hand, repeating that he could not miss work, that someone important was flying in, that this was a bad week. I remember kneeling beside Evelyn, holding her head, telling her help was coming while already knowing who would stay. It was always me. The years that followed blurred together in a rhythm no one else noticed. Medication schedules taped to the fridge. Alarms every 3 hours at night so I could turn her body and keep her skin from breaking. Cured meals measured carefully and fed slowly, spoon by spoon, while she apologized for being a burden. Doctor's appointments, physical therapy, insurance calls that ended with someone saying, "I am sorry, that is not covered." Mark used to say his mother was lucky to have me. Lucky. As if love were a coincidence. Rachel visited twice a year, always in a hurry, always with expensive gifts she handed Evelyn like proof of affection. Perfume Evelyn could no longer smell, scarves she could not lift her arms to wear. She stayed an hour, 2 at most. Then she left. Ethan moved out at 22. He called once a month, sometimes less. Mark told him everything was under control, that I had it handled. And I did. I bathed Evelyn when she could no longer do it herself. I held her hand during procedures Mark refused to attend because hospitals made him uncomfortable. I learned to read her breathing at night, to know the difference between sleep and pain without turning on the light. When the cancer came, and then the treatments, and then the hospice bed in the living room, it was still me. Always me. Evelyn used to whisper thank you like it was a confession. "You should not have to do this, Linda," she would say. I would smile and tell her she was family. But family never showed up. Not when she cried at 3 in the morning. Not when she forgot her own name and panicked like a child lost in a store. Not when the nurse asked who held medical power of attorney and Mark hesitated. 10 years passed like that. Quiet. Invisible. And now, sitting on that ottoman, watching my husband occupy his mother's chair like a throne, I understood something, with absolute clarity. They did not see those 10 years as sacrifice. They saw them as service. Something provided. Something owed. something they could pay off with paperwork and a number on a page. Rachel closed the folder gently, and that was when she began to speak again. Rachel adjusted the folder on her lap like she was about to present a quarterly report. "We found Mom's will in her bedroom," she said, "in the drawer with her medications." The room felt smaller. I leaned forward without meaning to, my fingers gripping the edge of the ottoman. Evelyn and I had talked about her will many nights, quiet conversations after Mark went to bed, after the house settled, after the pain medication softened her voice but not her thoughts. She was clear. Very clear. "Mark will receive the house," Rachel continued, reading. My ears rang. The house. The same house where I had slept with one ear open for a decade. The house where I learned to change dressings, flush feeding tubes, give injections. The house where Evelyn had died holding my hand. "For you, Linda," Rachel said, finally looking up. "Mom left $5,000. She paused. "For your service." For a moment, I could not breathe. $5,000? 10 years of nights broken into hours. 10 years of lifting, cleaning, feeding, soothing, advocating. Reduced to a line item. A fee. "That is not possible," I said quietly. "Evelyn told me something different." Mark cleared his throat. "My mother was on a lot of medication," he said. "She was confused sometimes." "No," I said. "She was clear." Rachel's mouth tightened. "This is the will, Linda. It is legal. It is signed. Everything is in order." The man in the gray suit finally spoke. "Mrs. Harper, my name is David Collins. I am the attorney overseeing the execution of this will. You will need to vacate the property within 48 hours. 48 hours. I turned to Ethan. He still would not look at me. "Dad says this is what Grandma wanted," he said softly. "Your grandmother cried for you when you stopped visiting," I said. "She asked why you were too busy for her." Ethan flinched. Mark stood up then. "You are making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "You will receive your payment. Ethan will stay with us. You need to pack your things and leave." "Us." He said it like a verdict. The lawyer cleared his throat again. "If you do not vacate voluntarily, we will proceed with formal eviction." I stood up slowly. My legs felt weak, but my voice did not. "I understand," I said. They looked surprised. Maybe they expected tears, screaming, bargaining. But 10 years of caregiving teaches you something important. You do not fight every crisis in the moment. Sometimes you step back. You observe. You wait. And you prepare. I walked upstairs to the bedroom I had shared with Mark for over 2 decades. And I began to pack. I packed slowly. Not because I was unsure of what to take, but because my hands needed time to stop shaking. The bedroom felt unfamiliar, like I was standing in someone else's life. Mark's clothes were still in the closet, neatly arranged. His side of the bed untouched. Mine held the evidence of a life paused, nursing shoes, folded sweaters, a stack of old photos he once suggested throwing away because everything is digital now. I pulled out a suitcase and laid it open on the bed. I packed my scrubs first. I had not worn them in nearly a decade, not since Evelyn's care became a full-time responsibility. Still, I could not bring myself to leave them behind. I packed the small jewelry box Evelyn gave me on my 50th birthday. Nothing expensive. Just a bracelet she insisted looked like something a strong woman would wear. Downstairs I could hear voices, low, controlled, practical. They were already planning. Selling furniture, listing the house, talking about money like it had always been theirs. No one came upstairs to check on me. No one asked where I would go. I left before morning. I did not slam doors. I did not confront anyone on the stairs. I walked out quietly, like I had learned to do in hospitals at night, careful not to disturb anyone who thought rest mattered more than truth. The motel on Route 7 smelled like bleach and old smoke. The heater rattled all night. The bedspread was thin and rough against my skin. I used the $5,000 Rachel transferred to my account. 2 weeks at the motel. Groceries from the discount store next door. Cheap coffee that tasted like water and regret. I lay awake most nights staring at the ceiling. Not crying. Thinking. 10 years of caregiving teaches you patterns, symptoms, warning signs. And betrayal has a pattern too. People who feel entitled rush, they move fast, they assume compliance. They expect noise. I gave them silence. On the third night, I pulled my suitcase onto the bed and unzipped the bottom pocket. The envelope was still there. The one Evelyn pressed into my hand 3 days before she died. "Do not open this until I am gone," she had whispered. "Promise me." I had promised? I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, the envelope resting in my hands. I realized something then. Evelyn had known. And if she had prepared for this, then so would I. I opened the envelope. Inside the envelope was a single key. Attached to it was a small paper tag with a handwritten label. First National Bank. Safety deposit box. There was also a note, written in Evelyn's uneven handwriting, the kind of writing that comes from tired hands and stubborn resolve. "Linda. If you are reading this, then I am gone and my children have already disappointed me again. I know Mark, I know Rachel, I prepared for this. The real will is in the box. There is also a video. Take this key to my lawyer, Thomas Caldwell. His office is downtown, above the bakery I loved. You will know the place by the smell. I am sorry you have to go through this. You deserved better from all of us. With love, Evelyn." I sat there holding the note until my hands stopped shaking. The next morning I took the bus downtown. Thomas Caldwell's office was exactly where Evelyn said it would be. Old brick building, narrow stairs, the faint scent of cinnamon drifting up from the bakery below. He was older than I expected, white hair, steady eyes, the kind of man who listens before he speaks. "Mrs. Harper," he said, "I have been expecting you." He led me into a small conference room and placed a metal box on the table between us. I handed him the key. Inside the box was another sealed envelope, a thick folder, and a small USB drive. "Evelyn executed her official will 8 months ago," Thomas said. "It was properly witnessed, notarized, and filed. What your husband showed you was not that will." He opened the envelope and began to read. The house was mine. Not Mark's. Mine. $400,000 in savings were mine. Mark and Rachel were each left $25,000, with a clear condition. If either of them contested the will, they would receive nothing. Ethan was left $100,000 in a trust, accessible when he turned 25. I stared at the table. "This will include a no-contest clause," Thomas explained. "It is legally sound and very intentional." I looked up slowly. "They forged a will," I said. Thomas nodded once. "And Evelyn knew they might try." He picked up the USB drive. "There is more." Thomas inserted the USB drive into his laptop and turned the screen toward me. Evelyn appeared, sitting at a plain table in the same office, wearing the blue cardigan I had given her for Christmas. She looked thinner than I remembered, but her eyes were sharp, focused. "If you are watching this," she began, "then someone is trying to take what does not belong to them." She folded her hands carefully. "I am Evelyn Harper. I am of sound mind. My body is weak, but my judgment is not." She spoke slowly, deliberately, like someone who wanted every word to carry weight. "My son and my daughter have not cared for me in many years," she said. "They visit when it suits them. They call when they need something. They have made it clear that my care was not their responsibility." Her voice tightened, just slightly. "Linda has been here every day, every night. She bathed me when I could not stand. She fed me when I could not swallow. She stayed when everyone else found reasons to leave." She looked directly into the camera. "Linda earned this home. She earned this money. And if anyone tries to tell her otherwise, they are lying." The video ended. I sat back, stunned. Thomas slid the thick folder toward me. "Evelyn documented everything," he said. "Dates, missed visits, broken promises, financial requests. She kept care logs, medical notes, statements from hospice nurses. All of them state that you were the only family member present consistently." I flipped through the pages. My handwriting, my notes, things I had written without thinking, just to keep track. Times, dosages, symptoms, appointments. "You also paid out of pocket for some of her medications," Thomas continued. "We have receipts." Bank statements? I never kept track, I said quietly. She did, he replied. She knew you would not protect yourself, so she protected you. I took a deep breath. What happens now? Thomas leaned back. Now I file the official will with probate court. Mark and Rachel will be notified. I will strongly advise them to accept their inheritances and walk away. And if they do not, then the forge will become a criminal matter. Forgery, attempted fraud, potential elder abuse. The words felt heavy. Serious charges, Thomas said, real consequences. I thought of Mark sitting in his mother's chair, Rachel speaking about my life like an expense report. What do you recommend? I asked. Thomas met my eyes. Do exactly what Evelyn wanted. Go home. Live. And let the truth do the work for you. For the first time since the funeral, I felt something shift. Not relief. Strength. I filed the police report the next morning. The detective was a woman around my age. Calm, efficient. She listened without interrupting, her fingers moving steadily across the keyboard as I spoke. Do you still have the forged will? She asked. No, I said. Rachel kept it. That is fine, she replied. We will obtain it. Do not contact your husband or his sister. Let us handle this. 3 days later, I returned to the house. My house. I was carrying boxes up the driveway when 2 police cars pulled in behind me. The lights were not flashing. There was no rush, just certainty. I stood by the window and watched. Mark opened the door. I saw his face change the moment the officers showed their badges. Confusion first, then fear, the kind that comes when entitlement finally meets consequence. Rachel was inside, sorting through Evelyn's belongings. She had already separated what she wanted to sell. They arrested them both on the front porch. No shouting, no explanations that mattered. Just handcuffs and quiet disbelief. That night, Ethan called me. Mom, he said. His voice was small, shaken. I did not know. Dad showed me the will. He said it was real. He said you were just upset and needed space. I listened. I did not interrupt. Did you help make it? I asked. No, I swear. I only saw it after. There was silence on the line. You should have visited your grandmother more, I said finally. You should have called her. You should have asked questions. I know, he said. I should have. Your grandmother left you money, I told him. $100,000. You will receive it when you turn 25. He exhaled sharply. Where are you staying? Are you okay? I looked around the living room. The same room I had been told to leave forever. I am home, I said. I am finally home. The case moved quickly. Mark and Rachel pleaded guilty to forgery and attempted fraud. Mark received 18 months. Rachel received 1 year. No appeals. No speeches. Just records. Ethan started visiting every week after that. At first we drank tea in silence. But slowly we began to talk. About Evelyn. About absence. About responsibility. And about what happens when truth finally catches up with people who thought they were untouchable. I did not sell the house. For a while I considered it. Every room held echoes of Evelyn's final years. The living room where the hospice bed once stood. The kitchen where she laughed on good days and cried on bad ones. But then I understood something. This house was not just a building. It was proof. Proof that quiet devotion leaves a mark, even when no one is watching. Instead of leaving, I changed its purpose. I used part of Evelyn's money to create a small support program for family caregivers. People like me, people who had put their lives on pause to care for aging parents, spouses, or relatives. I called it Evelyn's Haven. We met in the living room every Saturday morning, folding chairs, coffee in mismatched mugs. No speeches, just stories. People came exhausted, angry, guilty for feeling angry, relieved to finally say the things no one lets caregivers say out loud. Ethan volunteered. At first he stayed in the background, setting up chairs, making coffee, listening more than speaking. Slowly he began to understand what 10 years had meant. One afternoon, he asked me why I never complained. I told him I had, just not to the people who could have helped. Caregiving is not a burden, I said, but being invisible is. He nodded. I saw something settle in him. On the 1-year anniversary of Evelyn's death, Ethan and I planted roses in the backyard. Evelyn loved roses. Even when she could no longer tend them herself, she would sit by the window and tell me which ones needed trimming. We worked in silence, hands deep in the soil. She knew, did she not? Ethan asked finally. She knew Dad and Aunt Rachel would try something. I wiped the dirt from my palms. She suspected, I said, and she prepared. We stood there for a long moment. The house felt different now. Not heavy. Anchored. For the first time in years, I was not living in reaction to someone else's needs. I was building something forward. Something that mattered. Something that would outlast the pain that created it. Late one evening, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, I opened the old photo albums I had rescued from the trash. Pictures of Evelyn as a young woman, smiling, certain, holding a baby who would grow up to forget who she was when it mattered most. And tucked into the back of the last album I found a folded note. Linda. If you are reading this, then my plan worked. You are home. You are safe. I am sorry I did not protect you sooner. I saw my children clearly too late, but not too late to do the right thing. You spent years making yourself smaller so others could feel important. You carried burdens that were never meant to be yours alone. This is me telling you to stop. Stop sacrificing your dignity for people who mistake kindness for weakness. Stop confusing obligation with love. You have permission now to rest, to take up space, to say no without explaining yourself. Build something for you. With gratitude and love. Evelyn. I cried then, not the sharp grief I had carried since the funeral, but something deeper and quieter. Relief. For the first time in decades, I was not the fixer, not the invisible one, not the woman expected to absorb everyone else's failures. I was Linda Harper, 62 years old, homeowner, caregiver advocate, mother to a son who was learning what it meant to show up. Evelyn taught me that family is not defined by blood but by presence, by who stays when it is uncomfortable, by who chooses responsibility over convenience. But she also taught me something just as important. Sometimes the most loving act is drawing a line. Not in anger. Not in revenge. But in self-respect. And when you finally do that, you are not taking something away from others,